What is up, guys? Today we finally got it. We got the first season 3, episode 1 through 3 breakdown and reaction. Yep, a couple of days ago we finally got the first 3 episodes. It was a 3 episode premiere for season 3 of The Bad Batch, and I can see why it was a 3 episode premiere because I will admit the first episodes were a little it's like a little introduction, a little slow pace, a little kind of like, again, like I said, an introduction to the season and what's going on. But that said, I think there's still a decent amount of good in these first 3 episodes, despite a little slower, start. Like, it wasn't a lot of high stakes, especially in the first 2 episodes. I'll just go like in order. So starting with episode 1, we get to see Omega in with her daily life in Mount Tantus. Like, as we know, she was captured by the Empire and taken to Mount Tantus, where she has continued to be tested on. But she also works as sort of a lab assistant, a little bit of a, you know, labor worker. She does some assistance with Emery, her sister, with the DNA cloning stuff, where they take clones' bloods and stuff. And what they're doing is they're searching, see if their blood is compatible with M counts, which means they are trying to find suitable, I think, genes or whatever, to help with Palpatine's cloning experiment. We know that, of course, Project Necromancer, Palpatine has been working on this for a very long time. And of course, this ties into the sequels, which was one of the stuff I already said that I didn't really want to see explored when I was reading the reviews for the first 8 episodes, which was my first video for Star Wars. If you want to go check that out, that's on my channel, the first Star Wars video I've ever made. But yes, this stuff does connect with the prequels. As we know, Palpatine successfully does transfer his essence into another clone body of his, and I think that's what they're trying to do here. Is they're trying to test different, M counts for different clones' blood samples to see if they'll be compatible, and then from there they can use that to make their clones for Palpatine. And we kind of see throughout the episode, Nala Se, the Kaminoan scientist, is purposefully erasing Omega's samples. So, because she knows Omega, we find out later on, she is compatible with the M counts, and she is able to hold the midichlorian counts that they are putting into the blood samples for them. But as we find out, this doesn't work for all of them. We know that they were testing on Crosshair, and he does not react to the samples very well. We see that his arms and hands start like fidgeting, like he can't take it. So whatever they're doing to him, he's not able to take it. But Omega can, and they find this out later. But back to the first episode, it was a little bit slower paced, a little Andor-esque, you could say, but I liked it. Like, we get to follow Omega and basically her daily life at the Mount Tantus. We see, I think, the first like moments of the show, we see her tally marks, and like she tally marks each day she's been there, or each rotation as they call it. And it's been, I think it was like 3 weeks according to our standard of time. And we get to see her progression. Like, Omega's still kind of, a little lighthearted. Like, she says good morning to Emery. Emery says good morning to her. And she goes on with her day and does her normal chore stuff. She has she meets a sort of domesticated dog that she calls Batcher, which is funny. Funny name for that. Kind of like Bad Batch. Batcher might be a part of their squad now, as we see later on. But we see that she's kind of like become friends with the dog, like she's sort of domesticated it, because these dogs that she feeds every day are supposed to be wild. They're supposed to be guard dogs. They're supposed to protect Tantus and like fight off other predators that are around. And yeah, again, uh, guard the mount. So yeah, that's what they do. But Omega, of course, the caring and kind-hearted, friendly person she is, she's able to domesticate one of those dogs. And yeah, then after that, we see her talk to Crosshair. Crosshair is, of course, not very friendly. He's really down on his luck, hopeless, and he's like, "Yeah, you need to stop doing this. You need to stop trying to figure out ways to get out of this cell and get out of this prison, basically." And it's just, yeah, he's really down on his luck, and Omega, of course, keeps it light and lighthearted. She says she will find a way out and that she will break them out together. Crosshair just doesn't want to be a part of it. He's like, there is no we. We're not together. Like, you just need you need to stop this. Just continue living on with your life in this prison, basically, or figure out a way to get out of here. But then she continues on with her stuff in the prison. Then we get a time jump. It's been like a ton of days later. I think it was like over 100 tally marks that she had. It was like over 100 rotations for sure since the last time we see her. So a long time has passed. She still continued to do her stuff. Yeah, basically just that. She continues her work. She realizes one of the dogs, Batcher, gets a bad cut on his leg, so she takes it upon her own to heal the dog, and then continues on with her stuff. We see more of the M count stuff and blood transfusions with all that stuff. And then she talks with Crosshair again. He gets a little more serious. He's like, you need to stop. He continues to say, you need to stop. And he's like, if I found a way out of this prison, I would not get you. I would go by myself. And Omega, of course, being the person she is like, no, you wouldn't do that. You're my brother. Crosshair's like, no, I'm not them. I'm not a part of them. And I didn't want to really believe it at first. I thought he still kind of liked his brothers, but he's like, no, I'm not them. I'm not one of them. So continues to like dissociate himself from them. He's like, I'm not a part of them anymore. Like, this is who I am now. And later, he kind of has a little bit of compassion. He's like, when Omega's like, no, I'm still going to find a way out. I'm getting close. And then Crosshair, he stands up, calls her name, I'm pretty sure, as she's leaving. He's like, he stands up. He's like, don't do anything for me. If you find a way out, don't do anything for me. Don't risk the mission for me. And he's like, yeah, this is where I belong. I should not be saved. I belong here. And then Omega, before she leaves, is like, nobody belongs here. Then I'm pretty sure the next part of it is that the robot with Omega in the dog pound area where she feeds them and stuff, the droid reveals that the dog that Omega's been caring for is scheduled to be terminated. Omega, of course, doesn't like this. She takes the tablet away from the droid and then uses the tablet against him and then drops something from the ceiling onto him and then finishes off the droid. Of course, this sets off security alarms, and then we get Hemlock, who I didn't mention up until now. He comes in and scolds Omega for this. Is like, sentiment and emotions aren't allowed in this facility. Like, you can't do this. You can't keep on doing this. And of course, Emery goes along with this. Like, we kind of see a little bit of change in Emery, but of course, she still believes in the Empire. She's like, there's no escape in this. You might as well just stay here and help out, because the Empire are trying to make things better. You might as well just stay here. This isn't even a prison if you have the right mindset. So she's still on board with this whole thing. She's very much on the side of Hemlock, even though she sort of does care for Omega. Earlier in the episode, she makes like a straw doll, and then there's like a security check in her cell. They take the straw doll because like objects and like stuff aren't allowed, and she takes it, but then later gives it back to her. So she still has some sort of attachment to Omega, and that's that. Episode ends with, I'm pretty sure, her looking out in her cell again, and that's the end. And then the next episode, episode 2, I'd say is my least favorite, but it's still okay. Like, it's not a bad episode whatsoever. Like, it starts with the Durand crime family. I don't know if you remember, but the Durand family, Bad Batch worked with in episode 1, and one of the guys they worked closely with, they did a mission for him, but the Pikes were involved. So the Pikes got very involved and had some problems with the Durand family, and they cut off the horns of the main guy, cut off one of the horns of the main guy that the Bad Batch was working with. So it's a pretty cool tie-in. Like, we didn't see these guys, and you would have thought like that was sort of like a filler episode where they were working with the Durand family, but it comes back full circle. Like, they get information. The Durand family has information on Tantus, so the Bad Batch briefly do a mission. It's not shown, but they capture one of the Pike people, and they return the cut off horn to the guy in exchange for information, and they give it to them. So they're off to Tantus. So they find the planet. They're able to find the planet, and they're able to find one of the locations of Dr. Hemlock's bases. And then they go there, and it's overrun with trees and vines and stuff. And they're like, well, this was outdated information. The information that the Durand family had was like years or a lot of months old. So Hemlock already moved his base, so Omega's not there anymore. But they still go down there because there could be information. There's still like panels that could work and give information on where they moved to. But before that happens, they actually run into two clone cadets that are stranded and surviving by themselves in the wilderness. And it really makes you think, like, what happened? There was a lot of clone cadets. What has happened to all the other clone cadets? And it could go really dark. Like, a lot of the clone cadets that we see earlier in the Clone Wars show, and even in the Bad Batch, where Nala Se is, like, moving them to a different facility, a lot of bad things could have happened to them. A lot of the clone cadets could be dead, and we only see these two at the moment. But they help them. They help them get into the base. Well, only one of them does, because first they meet their leader, which I'm pretty sure the leader's name is Mox. And you can clearly tell, still voiced by Daniel Logan, which is nice. Daniel Logan voiced the clone cadets in the Clone Wars show, and now he still is, which is a good treat to see. But yeah, I'm pretty sure the guy, the two, Mox and one of the other clone cadets disagree to help, but I'm pretty sure the clone that does help, his name is Zeke. He goes and helps them retrieve the data from the overrun base. And meanwhile, that's happening, the two other clone cadets, Mox and the other guy, are like, hey, we should just take their ship and leave. We can live a better life. And then Mox is thinking about it. He's like, but that just makes us the same as the people that abandoned us. That makes us the same as the clone troopers that abandoned us and made us live out here in the wilderness by ourselves. So then I think the other clone does a little bit of persuading. So they go onto the Marauder. And then there's like more thoughts about it. He's like, but they're going out and trying to save one of their own members, because Hunter and Wrecker share that they're trying to find one of their members that have been taken from them. He's like, well, they're trying to save one of their members. They're doing all this effort to try to save one of their own, and I respect that. Like, I would have wanted my brothers to do the same thing. So eventually they do change their minds and go back to save Hunter, Wrecker, and Zeke. But they get the information, but they are attacked by what are called Slithervines, which was a project the Empire was working on as well, but they got overrun by the Slithervines. They were just too powerful. So Hunter, Wrecker, and Zeke have a lot of problems with that, but they're able to get the information. And they eventually, with the help of Mox and his other brother, they are able to get onto the Marauder and escape from the Slithervines, which was a pretty cool scene. It reminded me of like a Sarlacc pit, or like one of those creatures that we saw on Umbara in the Clone Wars. It reminded me of one of those creatures, kind of the same thing. But they do escape, and then we get the mention that Hunter is going to transfer the 3 clone cadets to Pabu, which we saw in season 2, and we're going to get to see Fat Mace Windu again. Shout out Star Wars Theory. But then we get to the final episode, which is arguably the best episode, but I might not consider it that because of what happens in it. But let's just get to it anyway. We get back to Crosshair and Omega, back on Tantus, and Hemlock, I should say first, Omega notices that there's more clone commandos on the base than normal, and that's because they're getting a surprise visit from a certain someone. But before then, Omega is in one of the labs with the blood and the midichlorian counts that they're trying to infuse with them to see if one can be compatible. And Nala Se goes in there, I don't think she deleted it, but she kind of whispers to Omega that she needs to leave because if they find that Omega has a compatible M count with the blood, she's going to be in very serious trouble. Because Nala Se can't delete it this time because she's under the supervision of Hemlock this whole time while a certain someone, I'll get to him later, is coming to inspect the base. But she whispers to Omega that she needs to leave, and she gives Omega her tablet and makes it very brief. She tries to mention the project that they're working on, but gets cut off by Hemlock telling her to leave with him. So Omega now has the resources she needs to escape this base. And then what we get is the grand entrance of the Emperor himself coming to inspect this base. Great scene, great score, great everything. The entrance was amazing. Ian McDiarmid's voice acting is amazing. I loved it. And he comes to inspect the base. Scorch is with Hemlock, and Nala Se is with Hemlock. And the Emperor is like really impressed with the base, and while Hemlock is explaining all the like scientific things with extraordinary wildlife and like giant wildlife and all that stuff that they're experimenting on with the tests, and that's going really well. And Emperor Palpatine's is like, having none of this. I'm only here for one thing. And Hemlock is of course, Emperor, Project Necromancer. So, yep, we get the official mention, Project Necromancer. That is why Palpatine is here. And what they're doing, that's what they've been doing this whole time since episode 1. They're trying to find compatible M counts with certain clones so that they are able to clone Force-sensitive clones, which can be then transferred from Palpatine's essence into those clones in case something bad happens to him. It's been going on this whole time, 50 years before the sequels have even happened. And I'm not surprised, of course Palpatine has been playing this. He's one of the smartest minds in the entire Star Wars universe ever. So, of course, he's been working on this, or at least had the idea and then hired all these people to work on this. And now they have made very good progress, and Hemlock is about to show him. And while this is going on, Omega and Crosshair Omega meets with Crosshair, and they're able to distract some guards, and they're able to get Crosshair out of his cell, and now they're on the run. And then while that's happening, Palpatine goes into the very same lab that looks very similar to what they were working on Exegol. He peers into one of the pods, and he has that grin on his face. Now, a lot of people were saying this could be Snoke, but it's possible that this could just be a Palpatine clone that are doing really good. But what might happen is that since we know that the young, very developed Palpatine clones, those might fail because the clone we saw on Exegol in Episode 9 was not a very good clone. Like, it was a very old, wrinkled up clone. It wasn't in peak condition like Palpatine probably wanted. So this experiment on Mount Tantus could definitely go to a bad end by the end of the season, which is possibly why he gets the bad clone in Episode 9. But people were thinking this could be Snoke. That could possibly be a thing too. I don't think it is, though. I think they're trying to find young Palpatine clones, which is definitely a lot better than the Snoke thing, I will say. At first, I thought it was the Snoke stuff, but I think it might just be them trying to make young Palpatine clones, which could be a lot better than that, in my opinion. But as they're doing that, Crosshair and Omega try to find a shuttle, but all of the shuttles are docked and stuff except for Palpatine's, but that's guarded by 1,000 clones or 1,000 troopers, so they can't do that. So then Omega remembers in the first episode there was a shuttle that actually crashed by lightning, and they can use that to send a signal to Hunter and Wrecker. So they are able to escape through the Hunters thing, but they are encountered by Emery. Emery tries to convince them to stay. That doesn't work. Crosshair stuns her, and they leave through the dog entrance. Once Palpatine is done with his visit, Hemlock gets the notification that prisoner CC-9904 and the Omega escaped, and he rushes back there. Emery, once she wakes up, told them that they escape, and they send a whole unit after them, where Crosshair gets the idea to do Plan 72 and asks if she knows that, and then Omega's like, yeah, because Tech made me memorize all of them. And then Crosshair's like, of course he did. That's like a cool thing. I wonder if Omega's told him that Tech is dead, because it doesn't seem like we never got that moment in these first 3 episodes. We never got a moment between them where Omega had to tell Crosshair that Tech is gone. We never got that. So I wonder if Omega has even told Crosshair that Tech is dead, or if that happened in one of those days, but they just chose not to include it. But they do Plan 72. Batcher, the hound that Omega set free, comes to the rescue when there's a clone commando that's on Omega, knocks the clone commando out, and Omega's able to hijack the ship that the unit comes on, and they're able to hijack it, and Omega turns the guns against the unit, and then Crosshair is able to get onto the ship, and they escape. But then, of course, Hemlock doesn't want this ship to escape, because if the base is found out, like Palpatine said, this could be a disaster. So he orders another V-ships, I'm pretty sure that's what they're called, or V-wings, to go after them, and they start shooting at them. They do get a hit on them, but then Emery comes rushing in because she figures out Omega's blood transfusion went in and saw that is compatible with the M count. So which means Omega can be tested on to be used as a cloning process for Palpatine. Emery sees this, comes rushing in to Hemlock, and he's like, no, don't shoot them down. Omega is compatible with this. So Hemlock has to order them to stop firing, and the Omega and Crosshair successfully escape, jump to light speed, and get away. Hemlock is, of course, upset about this because they could reveal the location of the base. But I didn't mention this, but when Palpatine's leaving, he says, this is great. This is really good news. Me and you, Hemlock, we have the same vision, so I am putting you in full charge of all this, and you have to make sure that nobody finds out about this. Even the people in this base could consider your work an abomination, so you have to be very careful, but I will give you the tools you need to succeed. So Hemlock, knowing this, he's like, this is a unfortunate setback, but this is okay. I have all of the resources from the Empire that I need, because Palpatine just gave them to me. So that implies next episode that Hemlock will probably send a lot of people after Crosshair and Omega, and this is where the bounty hunter stuff comes in. We saw Fennec, we saw Cad Bane, we saw Asajj, so I'm assuming the Empire is going to hire a lot of people to track down Crosshair and Omega. So that could be either what this next episode is about or one of the next episodes is about, which will be very exciting to see. So, like I said, I wasn't a fan of the sequel stuff that they were doing, but I kind of understand it. The stuff was a little slow as well. Like I said, it was a little Andor-esque, especially the first episode. I liked the third episode a lot because it actually showed Crosshair and Omega working together and escaping. But I also didn't like it as much because of the sequel tie-in. But it was pretty fascinating what they were doing. So overall, I would say I'd give this premiere a 7 out of 10. A little slow, but there was a lot of stuff I liked. I really liked the first episode. I would say that one was probably my favorite, even though the third episode had a lot more going on with it. I just didn't like that they had the sequel tie-in stuff. I understand it, but, it's just, yeah. But, yeah, first episode 1, really liked it. Andor-esque, a lot of build-up, a lot of character moments with Omega and Crosshair. Just a little slow, not much happened, but I still liked it. Episode 2 was kind of a filler episode, you could say that. It was basically just Hunter and Wrecker trying to get information on where Omega was. Then they go to the abandoned base, but then they see the information they get is just like, it's outdated. We could only find where the sector is. We don't know exactly where the base is. So it was a little filler because they didn't even find where the base was. So now whatever they're going to do next is probably going to continue to just try to find the base. But it was okay. I like seeing the clone cadets. The concepts of that were cool. But then the final episode, that was where all the meat to the meal started going. Like, we see Palpatine, we see the advancement of the cloning process for him, we see Crosshair and Omega escape. All that was really good. So yeah, again, like I said, overall I'd give the premiere a 7 out of 10. I wasn't bad, but I expect that this season will get a lot better as it progresses. This was kind of just like an introduction to the season, in my opinion. Like, not very much happened besides the last part, which was episode 3. But now I expect them to pick it up, like now. This is where it starts to get good. I'm expecting all the episodes from here on out will probably be like a 7.5 out of 10 or better. That's what I'm expecting, and I hope they deliver on that, because I expect this last season will be really good. I, again, hope we'll see more of the clone stuff with Captain Rex and Echo. Then we'll see Wolf later and all that stuff. I really want to see more of the clone stuff, not the cloning stuff, more of the clone stuff. That's what I'm really interested in, because this is like the fall of the clones. This is like kind of the ending to the prequels, basically, because the clones aren't really going to be prevalent anymore after this. Like, there's not going to be very many of them left. A lot of this will be resolved. So it's going to be very gripping, very intense, very action-packed. But yeah, this was just a start. I was okay with it. Not a bad start, and I expect it will definitely pick up, and there will be a lot better stuff to come, and we know there is. So with that being said, I'll leave it up to you. What do you guys think about this? Let me know in the comments what you think, and we'll see you with the breakdown and review for episode 4 next week. All right, have a good one.